Hi people, I'm just going to show you the problem I found on my Shark NV501 vacuum. I've checked everything like the view tubes show with respect to the little micro switch, checking the motor. I even checked and took it apart at the top and managed to get to the upper switch that turns the vacuum on as well as turns the rotating brush on. In my case, my problem is my rotating brush wasn't working. Lights would flicker intermittently. The green light, after I put it all back together the first time and couldn't find anything, all of a sudden for a minute it worked and then it didn't work. It sounded like an intermittent problem to me, but I went through all the checks and my frustration got the best of me. And I took it apart again this morning and basically everything's still checked out. The micro switch, the motor, everything tested out as okay. And I started playing around with the wires because other people had mentioned that the wires have been crimped. And sure as anything, that's what I found right up at the point at which the wires are. I'll show you right now. Basically, there's that micro switch. There's my motor. Uh, Micro switch checked out perfectly. Basically, the issue was right there as we look at it, right where those wires, right where those wires tuck in. This slides up and pinches all the wires together, and they're crimped into that little hole there. Now, as I played around with the wires, all of a sudden the thing took off. You got to be careful working with power on, though, that you don't touch anything that you shouldn't touch. But basically, as I pulled on the wires, and I wasn't sure which one it was of these three wires, black, red, or white, as I pulled on the wires, it would work and not work, work, not work. So I started without moving the other two. I started by just moving one wire and then another. It turned out the white wire was the one that when I moved it, it would come on and come off. And as I looked, it seemed to be right in that area that I mentioned there where these wires all get pushed and crimped in there. And I could actually see a little sparking going on there because the wire hadn't actually broken completely through. Well, I guess it actually had, but the insulation was holding it together, and sometimes it would touch and arc and touch and arc. And I could see that was obviously the problem. So then it took nothing to actually pull it apart. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to splice these. I'm going to solder them because it's very unlikely you can get any kind of a twist connector on there to connect the wires together and get it all back together. And before I do that, I'm going to put a little bit of heat shrink tubing on here up the wire. And when I'm done with the solder, I'll slide that heat shrink down over top of the soldered joint to completely insulate it from the other wires. And then I'll put it all back together, and it should do the trick. So that's what I'm about to do, and man, this thing runs like a charm when that wire is held together. So if you run into this problem, obviously there can be other problems. I've seen the upper switch having burnout. I've seen the micro switch be a fault. This one definitely is no issue at all. Works perfectly. So here we go. I'm going to get this thing back together right now. Okay, there we have the solder joint completed there. And now I will just slide up my piece of heat shrink tubing over top of there. Luckily, I had a piece of white heat shrink tubing, but really doesn't matter what color you use for the heat shrink tubing, but hey, let's just keep everything the same. And basically, now all I'm going to need to do for this is to use a hair dryer and just hit that sucker, and that'll cause that heat shrink tubing to shrink. That's why they call it heat shrink tubing. And that'll insulate the wiring, and we should be good to go. Okay, as you can see, there's the white wire with the heat shrink tubing over it. Now I've run that into the slot at the bottom and put the red one up top. There doesn't seem to be enough room at the top for all three wires, but it looks like a better fit for the black and the white to go in the bottom, and the red one, when you push this this collar in, it'll go in only so far, and it holds the red wire in place here without pinching it. If you try to put all three wires in here, there's a pinch created when you push that in. The slot is longer. I could have probably put the red wire down in there too, but it worked this way. Separate them, red there and the white and the black there, and it's back in. So I've left the micro switch just sitting here free right now. It's in the closed position. Of course, when you push this in, it will shut off the brush. It's in the back position instead of the up position, so that switch is closed when the lever is up. When you push it in, of course, you can feel it and you hear it click. When it goes down, it shuts off the brush. All right, now I'm going to start this sucker up, and you probably won't be able to hear me over the noise of the vacuum, but it's plugged in right now. Here we go. It's not with the switch. The switch has never been the issue. It was always that white wire. Could have been a black, could have been a red wire. Could have been the white, could have been the black, or the red. But in this case, it was the white wire. So the power wasn't going down to the board. And everything works just super right now, all because I'm not sure if they had funneled those wires in the wrong place and crimped them too tightly, or just working back and forth as you vacuum. But at any rate, they're secure, they're solid there. That white connection is soldered properly and shrink wrapped, so I'm going to get this sucker all back together now, and although I spent a good part of yesterday afternoon figuring out how to get this bottom end off and checking everything and being totally frustrated, and then I took the top of this apparatus apart with about 8-10 screws, and then you get at these switches up top here, and the switches were perfect. They didn't look burned. I checked them with the volt ohm meter and multimeter, and they were good, so that got me frustrated, and I thought, I'm going to pull this thing apart again. And anytime you find something that's intermittent, where the lights come on and don't go off, the headlights on the bottom, which is sitting there, I have to put that back on. They were working, but then they'd go off. It's really mysterious, you know. And it was all because of a connection that was maybe only one strand of wire left, powering the the headlights here, but then not enough to turn the motor. And eventually, by me moving the wires, it broke right through, and therein I found the problem. Now all you got to do is get this thing back together. There's numerous videos out there that show you how to take that apart and put it back together. Just don't miss your screws, and everything's good to go. So hopefully this helps you with what the real heart of my problem was. Anyways, thanks. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.